Neighbor tells you about the unstable man in the cul-de-sac who claims to have been abducted by aliens. And then there's the woman in town who claims to see Bigfoot all the time. Your boss, who you greatly admire, confides in you that he has started speaking with his wife daily when he gets home from work. She died 8 years ago. It's hard to believe this stuff, and you write these stories off as overactive imaginations. Are these people seeking attention, or are they a bit unstable? No matter what you think, if you're like me, you walk away wondering, what if that was true? The What If It's True podcast features stories by ordinary people like you and me. Something has happened to them, something so strange they are in agony unless they tell others. My name is Cameron Buckner, and the What If It's True podcast is available at whatifitstruepodcast.com and on all available podcast apps.
Oh, we're live, Mark. We're live.
We are live. And I tell you, I still love that intro. That intro has some of our friends in it, and the music is thumping, and we got some of our more friends that are coming on with us tonight.
Yes, we do. We had a great time camping with them 2 weekends ago. Not last weekend, but the previous weekend. Place we normally get a lot of activity. Seems that during the winter we don't get that much activity, but if we go in the summer, fall, or spring, they almost want to run us out of there. But we can talk about that in a little while. We got, a week left with a meet and greet?
Oh, yeah. It's coming up quick. My truck broke down on me today, Larry Porch second. And
well, you know what that means.
So my mechanic said, he goes, I don't know if I'd get to it, have it done by Wednesday morning. I said, so
you got old Red.
I got old Red.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to next week too. We got a lot of good people coming to that. Some are already en route.
Yeah.
Poor Robin. She's going to be driving for a month, I think.
Bless her heart.
Yeah. But
just to meet you, Larry Porch second.
I thought it was to meet you. I think it's to meet Kane and Eric.
Yeah.
And Spencer.
Oh, yeah.
Let's bring him on. How about that?
All right.
Are y'all ready to meet Robin?
Just kidding.
There they are. All right. Mike gave you $10 for it firewood next week, Mark.
Okay.
There you go.
Thanks,
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Let's jump into this outing. I survived. I've been incapacitated for the last year and a half. I put on my 80-pound backpack and I still made it in. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, it was fun. I had trimmed mine down a little bit, but it was a lot of fun, and we got a slideshow, and you'll be able to go there with us.
That's true.
Mark, how much did you slim your pack down?
Well, all of it he gave to you, he slimmed it down about 30 pounds.
Oh, man, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what I'd do without Spencer. Spencer always helps me in and out. I feel like Dan Ricky.
Hey, I did talk to Dan, and he's going to watch the weather, and if the weather's okay, he's coming.
He's coming then.
He better be.
If I got to tie him to the hood of the truck, he's coming.
Kane, Eric, how much did y'all haul in?
My backpack, I think, was
I was
35
around
pounds.
36 pounds, 38 pounds, something like that.
How about that? And y'all ate good? Kane,
Yeah, no issues.
I don't know that you ate anything but ramen noodles and that Band-Aid stuff.
I was the Scotch. Yeah, actually, I noted my weight on the way out because, obviously we ate and drank the Scotch. Right there was almost a perfect weight for me that I'm going to try to hit the next time. And it was like 33 pounds, but that 2 pounds is a huge difference, when you're packing stuff. So it's always a learning experience.
I tell you, Eric did a excellent video on the equipment that he took in. So I would say if you want a good, honest review, you go to Eric's channel. We'll be posting it in the links. But y'all really trimmed y'all stuff down as far as weight and what y'all took in. So you want to talk about that a little bit, Eric? I think he's got that.
I'm sorry,
delay.
Mark. I've got this. I don't know what's going on here. I'm breaking up. I missed what you said, buddy.
Tell us. Okay, you did a great equipment review on your channel. Now, kind of go over the highlights of your new equipment that you took into the field.
Oh, yeah. So I went from a hammock to the ground. I've been a hammock guy forever. So I decided to go to the ground this time. And I did a lot of research on tents and I finally settled on it's a 3F UL Landshan 2 Pro. It's an ultra lightweight. It's a no pole system. So you either take trekking poles in with you, or once you get to where you're going, you cut branches to whatever height you need, and you use those to set your tent up. It actually turned out to be a really good setup, a real good system. I'm pleased with it. It's only just over 2 pounds. And then I still have it. I bought a backpacking cot, and it was around 3 pounds. And it's kind of like our chairs that we hike in with, that unfold the poles and all that jazz. Very comfortable, low profile. It's only like 4 inches, keeps you up off the ground though. Very comfortable, but I wanted to try to get away from as much weight as possible. So I decided not to bring that this time, and I went with a newer style air mattress. But it was like the R value on the air mattress was like crazy ridiculous. It's like 5.7 R value. And it comes with a little bag instead of a hand pump or anything like that. You take this bag and you hook it to your mattress, and you just let it fill up with air, and you seal it off and squeeze it down, and it squeezes air into the mattress. So very lightweight. I think it's like a total. It's like it's just over a pound, just under a pound and a half. So yeah, both of them worked out really well.
Yeah, I tell you, I was just, while you were talking, I was watching this Plot Watcher video. When we got there, I had to get the equipment out, and I went and set up the Plot Watcher so I could film us setting everything up. And I'm going to tell you, by the time that I set that up, every one of y'all already had those tents up. Those tents go up quick.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I really liked Spencer's setup that he had. I like that one a lot. But all of us had really good systems, honestly. I think you had the best because you was warm at night.
When we play Spencer's audio a little later on, you will hear that wood cracking from me having a fire inside of that tarp tent, because it's just you could just tell a fire is going, but it was coming from the inside of my tarp tent, and it stayed warm in there. It was really, really nice. Here's a video of me starting the fire for the first time on that first night, and it was pretty cool to be able just to lay in my sleeping bag and had all the wood set up right beside of it. And so I could just stick my arm out and put wood on the fire and get it going.
Yeah, you got my sleeping bag going one time doing that.
I remember one time, the first time Spencer went in there with us. What did you have? Just like a little tarp that you threw over yourself, and you were heating up rocks in the fire pit, and you put those rocks in there. And I was really surprised how warm it got in there that time, Spencer.
Yeah, well, the thing about the rocks is that you don't have to maintain a fire. You don't have to worry about the sparks. The downside to it is that when it's really cold out, like it was that time, the rocks are really only good for about 4 hours, but that's long enough to get, a decent amount of sleep, and then you can get up and get more if you have to or whatnot. But they do a good job. I mean, they raise the temperature in your enclosure by, I don't know, 20, 30 degrees.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, it was really cold that first night. I don't know what it got down to, but the forecast said that it was going to be 19 degrees that first night we were in there. And I think everybody was prepared for it and stayed warm the whole night. There's no right or wrong way to do it as long as you're staying warm. Kane, tell us about your setup and how you stayed warm that night.
Well, I noted when we started hiking in, it was 29 degrees. So that was during the day. We got there, I think we got there around 1 p.m. It was 29 degrees the first day that we hiked in. So obviously it got pretty cold at night. But I went with the Black Diamond. It's an Arctic tent. A lot of alpine mountaineers. It's pretty tried and true. I really like the tent. I think it's right around 2.5 pounds as well. I had that. I had a Ecotech air mattress that had a, for being brand new, it had a slow leak the first night. It lost air each day, but I was able to keep it up. So it's a little disheartening to have a leaky air, right out of a brand new product, but it's a thermal air mattress. So it definitely helped keep the heat separated from the cold on your back. And then I just had a high sense 0 degree sleeping bag that worked well. I mean, the entire weekend we were out there, I was never cold. I didn't, my feet never got cold. And I went with wool socks, wool undergarments, gloves. And then from our previous trip, I went all pretty much primitive with the fur coat and everything, and the buckskin pants and went that route. This time around, I went high tech, and just for the comparison, they both work well, but obviously the high tech stuff does keep you warmer and it's lighter. And then that was really it. I didn't even that whole. I actually forgot to pack it, but I didn't have a wool toboggan that whole weekend. I just had my bandana, and you always forget something, and I forgot my toboggan. But it wasn't that bad, and it's quite a bit colder in Ohio, our winters, than probably what you guys experience. So I think me and Eric were probably a little more acclimated to it, but I always laugh at myself when it's like 30 degrees and you're like, oh man, it's starting to warm up out there, starting to feel the sun. 30 degrees, that's when you're acclimated.
Yeah.
Kane, you should have said something. I had an extra toboggan.
Sure you did. It really didn't bother me. I one of those things, I always have a bandana. I've had a bandana from riding motorcycles to working construction to hiking, and it's actually just another tool in the box. It keeps your ears warm. It's a multi-purpose thing that I just always have, and it served me well that weekend. Kept the chill off the tip of my ears.
Larry, I see we got a question up there. Larry's going. We're going to rename him the mic dropper. He's just going to be popping in here and
that's right,
saying something smart and jumping back out. Okay, Rusty's question is, "Hey, Mark, how did you know how warm it was on that man's hot rocks?" I'm going to tell you, that is a funny story because I was that night. It was me and Larry and Eric and Kane and Spencer and Lauren from Night Callers that were primitive camping. And everybody had gone and just got in their hammocks. And I was still at the fire. And Spencer hollered at me from his little tarp thing with the rocks. And he said, "Mark, come in here and feel this." And you should have heard the cat calls from everybody. But getting back to this trip 2 weekends ago, there was one. This is something that when Eric told me, it really just gave me the creeps. And Eric, I'm going to get you to explain this, but we were around the campfire and you walked back towards your tent and you heard something. Now, I'm not sure what time this was, but it had been dark for hours. And so why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was just past 10:30, and I walked out away from the fire and up past mine and Larry's tent, and I was getting ready to do a call. I'd actually inhaled and was getting ready to release, and right before I did, I up on the ridge to the right of me, I just get this blood curdling scream. I'd never heard anything like this before. I've heard people talk about it many times. Kane's even actually been witness to it before. But I had never heard it. And then it was drawn out, and then it stopped. And then there was like 3, maybe 4 more short bursts right after it that came. But yeah, this scream. So immediately I was like, I even came back and I asked Larry, I said, would turkeys be out running around right now? And which I figured they'd be roosting, and he said, nah, they're roosting, you know. So, but I started thinking, like, I know there's cat in the area because I found cat prints. I know there's bear. I quickly ruled out bear. I've seen a couple fox prints back at the actual campground. I'd seen some fox prints a couple years back. So fox can make some crazy sounds. I know cat can give off some, but this was like over the top sounding, more than what a cat would be, more than what an owl would be. I quickly ruled out coyote. But this, I mean, it put me on my heels. It set me back so much that I actually kind of like snapped at you guys a little bit, like, hey, you know, shut up, you know, because it was just one of those sounds, man. It sounded like a woman just being, you know, I hate to say it, just being mutilated. Is what it sounded like. It sounded like a woman just being destroyed, man. And it was, like I said, I've heard about it. I've heard people talk about it, but I've never been witness to it. And yeah, so I'm really hoping that was picked up on some audio somewhere.
Well, that's the funny thing. I'm not sure anybody's audio survived that first night. Did anybody's audio survive?
That is strange, because in our PM, as we were talking back and forth, I think Spencer mentioned that he lost the first night. And then Eric said, well, I lost the first night too. And I'm going to tell you, not to creep people out, but that is a characteristic of this area, is when it seems like when something's going on or something's around, that our devices all stop working, like they're sitting on dead batteries. And I actually there was a point on the plot watcher where it went dead for a while during the night, and then it popped back up. So it's just really strange.
Kane, did your audio survive at all?
I had Saturday night and Sunday night audio did. I don't think I was recording the night that he heard that.
Okay.
But yeah, I did. The rest of my audio is fine. I'm just lazy and haven't listened to it yet.
Hey,
let's just say busy.
I've not uploaded my plot watcher or anything, so I understand. One thing that I noted, and I still don't know what it was, but my right ear sounded like an electric fence popping in my right ear. That happened like 3 different times. And I think Eric said he had something similar happen. I'm not sure, but I have no idea what that was, if it was even anything. It may have been something crawled in my ear during the night. I don't know. But Eric can't confirm or deny because he don't know. Did any of y'all experience anything like that at all?
Not that trip, but what you're referring to was something that happened to Eric in Wayne National Forest. He had this throbbing in his ear.
Yeah.
And it was disorienting him to the point to where he's feeling sick. And eventually, we just kept walking, and he ended up just all of a sudden stopping, going, it's gone. So I told him, I'm like, well, go walk right back where you came in, right where we came out of.
Yeah.
And he did. And at a certain point, it came right back. And then he was able to walk back out of it again, and it went away. So I have no idea what that was, but it was definitely something in that radius And at that time, I think I was carrying a parabolic mic, and I was listening and trying to, and I wasn't catching anything on that. And I was having no effects at that time with anything with my ears or anything. Something else strange happened later where I had lost time. Both of us did in that same area, but this was a different time when that happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is. I don't, some people might be more sensitive to different frequencies. Is the only my best guess.
Man, I'm pretty much deaf to some frequencies, so it may be that there is a frequency that I hear better. I don't know.
That's with me working construction and being a musician. I know there's certain ranges in my hearing that I've lost. Like if you relate it to music from like a G to a G sharp, I can play by ear the G, C, D, E, F, but there's certain ones, especially around the register of the G, that I cannot, no longer I can hear it, but I can't differentiate it between like a G sharp or an F. I have to actually play the note, and then I can fine tune it and hear it. But that's just hearing loss from work and playing music. So everybody has these different little pockets of a sound that you may or may not have and not even know it.
Right. Well, I never did feel any physical effects, just that like a electric fence tinging, tick, 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 tick in my ear. Don't know what it was, and I'll never know. Night Wolf wanted to know if Eric got the scream recorded, and most likely none of us got it. Is that the consensus?
I think so.
Well,
I've got audio. I lost all the first night, but on the second night, on Saturday night, about an hour and a half after I start recording, that's whenever Eric says he hears something, and for us to be quiet because he was getting ready to do a call, and we're all going, "Did you hear something?" He said, "Yeah," and I can look at it, and I've highlighted it, and I sent the clips to Mark, but it's on my recorder. My recorder was only 15 feet away from us, so you can hear us pretty good. You can't hear the call real well. It's high pitched for sure, if that's the exact time of what he was talking about. And then it did happen again 3 or 4 times after that. So I think I've got it recorded, but it's not a very clear recording to really, really look at. I mean, it's there, but it's hard to tell what it is.
Yeah. Now you did capture some what appears to be distant vocals. And I just pulled that up, Larry, if we want to play that. I don't think that Eric or Kane has even heard these yet. Now that crackling was the fire that I had in my tarp shelter that you heard during that. But I've just got to hand it to Spencer. Those vocalizations were really distant, and you have to really get inside your bubble to be able to pick that out while you're listening second by second. So that was really a good job that you did to capture that, Spencer. And I know that you're still going through audio. You sent some other audio clips to me earlier that we didn't get a chance to get on here. Do you want to tell us about those?
I can just tell you that one of them on Sunday night or last night there, it sounds like a rock, or it sounds like something hitting metal. And I really racked my brain trying to think, if there was anything. I mean, it sounds like hollow metal, like somebody hitting like a metal roof. And afterwards you can hear something moving through the leaves. Can't say what it is. I mean, it could be anything. And then there is what I think is a really distinct wood knock. It's definitely, to me, it sounds like a wood knock, but again, hard to say. It was a little bit further back, but it was loud and it was resounding. You can tell that it's far away looking at it on the spectrograph, but it was still audibly, it was still loud. And then, like I said, I had the things that I think is what Eric was talking about. And just so that everybody can understand, if you don't listen to audio all the time, it's really funny how it can work sometimes. Eric heard that, and he was sitting 10, 12 feet away from me. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it with my ears. Going back and listening to the audio, I can see it. And if I amplify it, I can hear it. It's not that clear. It's pretty far away. But again, for him to hear something like that is obviously that far away, and he still heard it with his ears, to me, that says something about the strength of whatever produced that sound. But that's just my opinion. I don't really have anything to back it up, because it's too distant for me to get a good look at it and see what it is.
We're waiting on you, Larry.
What do you need?
You could ask that question if you feel like it.
Was that area close to where the meet and eat will be? No, it was not. All right, I'm back to the background.
Y'all see what I got to deal with on a weekly basis. We had a curveball thrown at us while we were in there, and it was something that I personally wasn't inspected. I was trying to think earlier how many days that we have spent in there since we first found that place. And Eric, you might correct me on this, but and I know that you've gone there once before without us, but I'm thinking that I have spent 18 days in there over the years, and I've never seen another human in there. But that was the curveball that was thrown at us, and it was something that Eric and Spencer found. So, Eric, why don't you talk about what we found and where we have to go from here?
I'm gonna try to figure out what you were saying, Mark, because I'm having issues with my Wi-Fi for some reason. But I think you were speaking about the structures that Spence and I came up on. I'm hoping that's what you were talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, to what Mark is saying, we've spent now actually like going on probably 4 years now going to this area off and on. And when we go, we spend 4 days in this area because it's a trip for all of us. We take time off of work, so throughout all of this time, we've been coming back to this area because it warrants us coming back to do research in this area, because of things that we have been witness to, and so this trip, I think it was Saturday. I kind of hiked around the perimeter and went up on a couple ridges, and I was about halfway up on one, and I'd found two breaks coming down, laying across the ground. One break coming across the top of it, and another one was underneath them. The two laying parallel with each other, and then one was cutting across the top of it, and one was coming across the bottom of it. So I was kind of running it through the gambit a little bit, and so I think it was Sunday, Spence and I made our way up to it, and we were talking, going, back and forth about it and whatever, and we ended up going up higher up on the ridge, and we came up on top, and it was littered with stuff. It was littered with what we call hangers. There was a rock stack. There was actual rocks in a tree. But then it quickly turned to finding out that this was all human manipulation. We had found, well, Spencer had actually found it. It was a painted rock and had a Sasquatch on it. And then also in the area, we had found pictures laying on rocks. We'd found where they were gifting with the painted rock, the pictures, and with food. Left the trash there, which just kills me. But it's in it. It wasn't done. I don't honestly think people do this maliciously. I don't think they do it, out of spite of thinking maybe there's somebody in the area doing research. I don't think it was any of that. I think what it is a lot of people think that this is helping, and honestly, and it's not helping what I do or what Kane does, and I don't think it helps what any of us do. And that's trying to figure out answers and trying to figure out what structures mean, and do they warrant, and do they hold things that is believed that these creatures are building. So when we come up to an area or we find a structure, we spend a very long time on that structure and analyzing it and going through certain things and trying to put data together and ruling out first and foremost of human manipulation, whether Mother Nature, things of that sort. So we spend a lot of time doing this on these structures. And then when you're spending this much time in an area, and then you come up to something like this, it's very heartbreaking, really, in a sense, because of so much time that you spend. And then you just, you have to, and so for me, it's a wash. When it comes to structures in that particular area, it's a wash. For me, I have already decided in my head. I've wiped out everything that I have done this last 3 or 4 years when it comes to structures. Whether I believe that it was something other than human or Mother Nature, now knowing that there's human activity in that area, it's easier for me just to wipe the slate clean when it comes to structures. Now, does this mean that there isn't that's this area doesn't warrant going back? Not at all, because of what we have gathered with vocals, with things being thrown at us, witness to things being thrown at us, the tracks that we have found. We have enough data in that alone to warrant us still going back to this area. It's just now we know when it comes to structures, we have to go deeper. I mean, to get into this area, I mean, we still hike in quite a ways to get to this area. So is the human aspect, are people coming back there every day? I don't believe so at all. Are they coming back once a month? I honestly don't think so. I think because of it being as remote as it is, I think it's maybe a 4 or 5, possibly a 6 time a year thing for somebody to go that far back in. But still, for me, I know I need to go deeper. And if I really want to start breaking down structures again and analyzing and spending the resource and the time on structures. But yeah, it kind of sucks a little bit. It for me anyways.
Well, I really rely on you when it comes to natural and unnatural. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, we were out and you told me that you took a whole year to study natural and unnatural. And wind, how much wind does it take to move a 6-inch diameter tree? There's so many factors and equations to natural and unnatural. And I think that's where we could lean on not only Eric for that, but if anybody has niches that they are interested in, take a year and study it. Dive deep into the rabbit hole and really try to understand whatever it is that you're looking for the answers. Now, these things that y'all saw up there, it was definitely gifting, but I'm going to tell you, looking at the pictures of what was created up there, whether if it was by the people that were gifting, or could it have been from an actual Bigfoot that actually found the gifting area? We don't know. That's why Eric is right that we have to throw that out, because it was intricate. Larry, I'm about to pull up this slideshow, and if you would blow it up full screen, and I'm going to get Spent. Let me stop it, and I'm going to get Spencer to talk about these because he witnessed these.
Well, I mean, to me, being the new guy and being the least experienced amongst everybody, I rely, like, part of the reason why I go there is because, to me, Eric and Kane, they do, they're light years ahead of a lot of people in this field. They actually put in the dirt time, and that they've made a lot of progress as far as interpreting some of this stuff. Possibly, I might be phrasing that wrong for them, but so I rely on them, and I'm there to learn, and I follow what they're doing and try to understand it and everything. Whenever we found this spot, I mean, it was apparent that there was that a lot of the stuff was human manipulation. This is one of the structures, possible structures, whatever, that we found. There is another one that's a little bit more intricate than this, and I just remember, of course, you feel disheartened as soon as you realize that there are humans there. But I remember looking at it and thinking to myself, if a person did that, they really spent a lot of time doing that, and they did it well, because the intricacy of how some of the possible stick manipulations were done, I know a person could have done it, and most likely a person did do it because of the other stuff that we found in the area. But to me, I just imagine that it would have taken a lot of effort to weave them together the way that they were done. Of course, at the same time, I have to agree. I mean, there's no doubt that there were humans there. So I think the prudent thing to do is to rule it out. But also, one other point I would make is that for someone to have found that spot that far back through a swampy area, and to spend as much time as they must have to do all the stuff that they did up there, I think that in a really weird way, it validates that area, because here's someone else that we don't know that is going way, way up in there to that spot and gifting Bigfoot, apparently. And I just think that that part right there is impressive on its own. I mean, it sucks, because you have to rule out everything as far as human interaction goes. But it was really, I don't know, it was very depressing. And at the same time, it was like, well, there must be some kind of reason that they're doing it here.
What about these rock stacks? Was all of this in the same area?
Yes.
Hey, Mark, can I speak to this a little bit?
Yes, you may.
This is the first time I've seen any of these, because I wasn't with those guys at the time. I know sure and well that if I would have been with those guys, I would have been up there for a couple hours. I would have lost my mind on this stuff. But I can tell you, after seeing the pictures right now, Eric and I have formulated enough data right now that from the very first picture to some of the other stuff I've seen, I know wholeheartedly, just by that picture right there, with what's in the area, I think that one right there, we have enough data that I could check that and ruled it out. At least what I probably would have done is put it on the shelf. Now, the rock between the tree and the little piece of the wood up there, the growth or whatever, all that stuff in the same area never has ever been in our data as far as same things in the same area. So I wholeheartedly think that we would have spent a couple hours on this, but we would have shelved it, whether there was human activity there or not, just because I don't think that there are certain things with these structures, and there's certain things that go along with these structures. That's just the main thing. Okay, when I'm looking at that picture, I'm immediately looking for other precursors, and I don't see any of the other things that I expect to see. So I think we would have figured it out, or at the very least took the time to record the data, but it would have went on the shelf because it does not match, the 150 other data points that we have of structures that have the same similarities, and like the rock stack in the same area. All those are red flags. And the only thing I can say for people that are doing this, I mean, it's everybody's woods, so I can't say, but just don't, you're not helping the researchers doing this. We all have to share the woods. I mean, hikers do rock stacks like this. I mean, that is usually, if you see a rock stack like that, that is a waypoint. And if you stand at this point, you should see another rock stack somewhere in your line of sight, because that's how, if you get lost or if there's low visibility, that's what hikers do. Now, Sasquatch people will make rock stacks, and I don't know if Sasquatch do or not. I don't even pay any attention to rock stacks just because of a human factor. But there are, I guess, at the bottom line, we would have wasted a lot of time on this. But at the same time, I agree wholeheartedly with these guys that once you see the human factor, that you scratch everything there, because it's not worth it. But I believe on top of that, we have enough data to be able to look at that and at least be able to say, well, this doesn't match anything else that we've recorded the data with. That's the difference between what humans are doing out there and the real deal, because the real deal, people can't hoax it because they don't know all the factors that go into it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that stood out to me, and I don't know if it was Eric or Spencer that said that y'all found hangers in that. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of researchers don't even know what hangers are. And so we just have to throw it out because of what we found. And Spencer, I'll get you to talk about this. There's a picture on the right that had Eric looking at a hanger. Talk about these drawings that y'all found up there, Spencer.
I think that there were 4 of them that were actually placed. I might be wrong on that, but I think that there were 4 of them that were placed like this, and they were still in relatively good condition for the weather. And then I found a few of them on the ground that I think were possibly discarded. To me, it kind of looked like someone had made multiple trips to this spot. And also right beside the pictures, and I thought that this was kind of interesting. There was at least, I don't know, Eric can correct me if I'm wrong, there was at least 2 bags of food items up there, and there was the lid to a peanut butter jar up there. And what I thought was interesting about it was, and it doesn't mean anything, but it was something I know. The bags were torn open just like a person would do. The peanut butter lid that was laying there had been removed. There was no claw marks on it. There was no teeth marks on it. It hadn't been chewed on. So there's no doubt in my mind that a person brought it up there. But I was kind of sitting there thinking about it. If a person were to open the food and just leave it up there, you're inviting any animal to come by and eat it. If you actually opened the items of food, and if the person didn't open the items of food, something did open them without tearing them apart or chewing them open or whatnot. So I thought that was interesting. But again, I learned a lot from this, but it has to be a wash, I think.
talk about these rocks. It was almost like it was a memorial to someone's daughter.
Yeah, the key thing on the back of the rock, and you can see it right there. And to me, this seems personal, so I don't want to go into a lot of detail about it. But on the back of the rock, it says, "To Shannon, who knows Sasquatch, I love you, Mom." And then it's in 2017 or 18. I forget which one it is. But, to me, it seems like just speculation. But it seems like Shannon's mom put that out there because Shannon was no longer around. And I mean, that's just one more element that I just thought was strange and mysterious and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Eric, he was up there just as much as me, and he can speak to this stuff just as well, if not better.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Spencer, 100%, buddy. I think it was a memorial left for Shannon. It was a memorial, but for all of this though, to be and to come all the way back in this area to do this, let's say it was a memorial, to do this for somebody. To Spencer's point, why we were out there after we'd found this, that means that she had an encounter. Somewhere out here in these woods, she had an encounter, and she believed in these things, and she spent time out here. So for her mother to come out and do this for her in this area, warrants, once again, to Spencer's point, that something had taken place. So like I said before, it doesn't stop us. We still have this area to research because of everything that we have collected through the years. Just this particular area, when it comes to structures, we just can't use it. Now, I will say, prior to, like, maybe the last trip, I mean, we went up over top of a ridge, dropped down inside a big ass gully, and we found things. So I think it's just this particular area. And this area right here was what, Spencer? Maybe 300 yards from our campsite.
Yes. A campsite that we have found anomalies at before that I don't think a person did. That's just my opinion. But again, the location of it is just so bizarre to me. So coincidental.
Let's talk about anything that happened on this outing that stood out to you as far as being that was like adding to our database. And Kane, I'll start with you.
As far as adding to our database, I did record. I have a lot of good data on. I did find some prints in the creek bed that just the stride and where they went up the face. It wasn't extremely high, but it was a straight up face and off the bank, and I was able to get some prints, and they were more bipedal than bear, that walked across the creek bed, stepped into this, and then it picked a spot that was almost vertical, and I recorded each step on video. And then you have to like look back and go with the human element. 20 yards south of that, it's flat. I mean, humans don't go up vertical faces. You know, a bear will. Okay. So that instantly rule out what a human would do, because it's a vertical face and there's a lot easier ways to get around it. So then I go to bear. Well, the strides don't line up with a bear. Bears do this. So they have 4 feet. And if you're just paying enough attention, if you find an impression, you know, you will find something about the size of your fist. That's its front paw. And for that, I did not find enough data to call it a bear track or a human track. So that was interesting for me. That was probably the takeaway. And like these guys were saying, this one area, I tend to agree with Eric on this. There's a human element there, and for God's sakes, if it's a memorial, our hearts go out to whoever you know did this for them. We're not knocking them in any way. I mean, when I go, y'all better have a memorial out in the woods for me somewhere. It's probably going to be my ashes, but just don't put any trash or Sasquatch stuff. So it is what it is. I agree with those guys. There's a lot of other elements to this, and there's a history of this place. There's the audio and the tracks. It always, no matter whether you're talking structures or audio, I mean, it all goes back to those footprints. And we have a pretty good database from going back to this area, the footprints. So a little disheartened, you know, over that. But again, I'm with these guys. She may have had an encounter there. I don't agree that a Sasquatch did any of that up there, because it's localized in this one area, and that just doesn't fit with the data. You know, the data that we collect, it's not all these things in one area. You know, it's one thing, and usually that one thing has other precursors. I'm going to keep going back to that, because that's where you can tell the human element. And then you see the pictures and everything. Okay, hey, that's a great place to have a memorial for somebody. I ain't hating by any means. It's just like what he said. The area's still good, and we continue on. Maybe go deeper. I mean, it's a gigantic area. It goes from Kentucky into Tennessee. So there's plenty of places to go. So I'm not disheartened about that. And we'll just keep doing what we do. And we'll always refer back to those. The only thing we have is a decade of data points of stuff to refer back to when we find the previous stuff, especially when you're talking about structures. If you do enough of your homework on it and collect enough data, then you have something to go by. Now, I even do that here, you know, around the radius. There's stuff I always throw out because it just doesn't. It's like I record it. I make a note. If it doesn't fit into the pattern, I toss it out, and it'll be put on a shelf. If I see it again, I'll go back to it. But that's why I still feel pretty confident that sooner or later we would have figured it out and be like, even if the human signs weren't there, I wholeheartedly believe that the structures, we don't know everything about them, but if they don't make sense to the data we've already collected, we would have shelved it. Plain and simple, because there is a pattern to what's going on out there, and there are precursors. I'll keep going back to that. There's precursors to a real structure. Sometimes that real structure is just to draw your attention to that, and then you got to look around and you got to find the other elements of information, which humans do not know. to my knowledge of what we've discovered, that's why this is a perfect example why we don't talk a lot about those things. This exactly. Because if we share 2 or 3 things about elements of structures, 5 years from now, everybody's going to be doing that out there, and you'll never be able to use that again. So it's for research purposes and to keep that data virgin. You know what I mean? It's if people don't know about it, they can't hoax it, and that's where we're at.
I think that's really true. It's the same way if a crime is committed and the detectives want to get it on the news. There are certain details that they are not going to release. And if they get a suspect, then they're going to try to trick them into saying something about a detail that the public does not know. And I think that's a great strategy to have. Now, Eric, without going into anything that y'all are keeping close to your chest, what are some good tips that you could tell our audience about if you come up on something and it looks unnatural? What are some of the steps that you go through to dissect it, to see if it's natural, unnatural, man-made, or something that we might suspect made it?
Look at Mark coming with the hard questions.
No, I'm just
yeah.
I'm just talking about, we all have our own protocols that we go through. Well, if it's whatever niche you have, and your niche is tracking, mine's audio. So I go through the same steps that I go through because it's proven to me. And so, without releasing details or trade secrets, you can kind of talk about dissecting and going through these steps that you and Kane go through.
So for me, when I come up on something that's been manipulated, whether it's a bow, a twist break, or if it's like or if it's a break coming across, like what Spencer and I came up on, the 2 breaks, the one underneath and then the one on top. So the first thing I look at is weather. I look at the surrounding area. I look at the size of the trees that are the same size as what has just been manipulated. Does it warrant Mother Nature to cause these? I actually have been witness out hunting. I saw this with my own eyes, a X structure be created by wind. And God, if I would have had a friggin' camera rolling. So things do happen. Mother Nature, things do. Branches fall, trees fall in certain ways. Anyways, the first thing I do is I look at Mother Nature. I look at the surrounding area. I see what's down. I see what's bowed. I already know the weather pattern to that area prior to me coming, because that's what I do. That's the type of the research that I do. I know the type of weather patterns that were there prior to me coming. So I look at snow load. Does this area have heavy snow in it? Is it a winter seasoned state? I look at things like that. I look at if it's let's say a break. Something is broke from the base, pulled down, like what Spencer and I had found. I look at age of the tree. How long has it been down? I get down on my hands and knees and I dig to the root. I dig to the base. I see where it's broke. I see if it's starting to rot, how long it's been rotting. Has it been down for a month, 2 months? I go through all of that first. If I don't find any type of weather manipulation in the area around it, then I start looking at, and if I haven't been on a trackway up to that point, and I just come up on this, because over time tracks do deteriorate and they go away. So, and I come up on something like this, I've ruled out Mother Nature. Now I go into the second phase. Okay, what else has been out? What have I seen up to this point when it comes to human activity in the area? Has there been any human activity in the area? For this instant, we hadn't seen anything in that area that warranted humans being back in there. No tracks coming in as we came in, nothing like that. So I quickly ruled that out. I ruled out human manipulation. I truly did. And then I start looking at how long would it take to create something like this? How long, how much resource would I spend? How much energy would I spend creating something like this? As a person, how much time would I spend? Now, one thing that I mentioned to Spencer when we were talking at camp, I said things that I have done when I then look at a creature, something other than human and Mother Nature. Now I'm looking at a creature aspect of it. I have to take I out of the equation, and I have to take human thought process out of the equation. Because the first thing, as we do as humans, we think, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, a human wouldn't do that. Well, these things aren't human, and these things aren't you. So you have to take that out. Take it out and solely think on something this large, this big, spending a resource, energy. How much time would I spend breaking these things, burning up my energy with the size that I am? Then I go into that aspect. Then I look at the intricacy of this structure and what they have done. And then from there, then I make a possible decision of, now I know it's not Mother Nature. I know it's not human manipulation. Now I'm thinking along the process of something other than both of those. Now, am I calling it a Bigfoot? No, I'm not. Am I stating that it was something other than human and Mother Nature? Yes, I am. And that's where I'm at. From there, though, then I keep going. I've made my thought process. I've made my decision, and then I keep going. And I try to look for something on the ground, something in the trees that I have collected through the years, data and certain things that these creatures do leave as they're walking, as they're tracking. These are things then that I start looking for as I then start to move on. This is where Cain will step in. This is then, now you're getting into Cain's realm, because I will move on and Cain will stay there, and he will start really digging in to what this structure, if it means anything at all, if it holds. He will be the second thought process to me. He will be the one then to say, you know what, man, I think we need to really, collect this and put it up there at the top inside the box and leave it there for a little while. I think there's more to this, or he'll be right there with me and say, you know what, let's just, let's keep moving and see what happens. So I very quickly come up on something. I look at it, boom, 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 Mother Nature, this, that. Now, Mother Nature, like I said, does crazy things. when you look at bows, it's to me, bows are extremely easy. Um, sunlight can grow a tree in a bow. A disease can grow a tree in a bow. Snow load can grow a tree in a bow. So many things. But once again, and we've all said it, and people have seen it. That's out there. People have seen it. It's when it's pinned, and it's pinned by something that is aged, but yet the tree that is pinned is still alive. So things like that, that are, to me, they're very quick. Like that right there was manipulated, obviously manipulated. Was it human? I don't know yet. Was it something other than human? I don't know yet. So I look at how much time was spent on something. I look at how much energy was spent in building something. That's what I do. And then from there, I move forward, and I try to pick up a trackway. And like I said, that's when Cain really steps in, and Cain will stay back behind, for quite some time, looking at these things. I hope that helps a little bit.
I tell you, what you just said, we ought to screen capture it and just post it on our Facebook page once a month, because this is great stuff. So many people, they find that first sign and then they walk away from it and want to tell everybody that they found a Bigfoot sign, and they did not dissect it. And that's where you and Cain mesh so well together. And with each of y'all's niches, the way that you look at things, even though you're a lot alike, there's different perspectives. And there's been different, just like, I have never forgotten about you telling me about weather and how much time that you spent studying weather and how weather affects. And so it only makes sense that that's the first thing that you check is when you find something. But I'm a whole lot like you. If I find something pinned and it's like a sapling, and the tree that's pinning it down fell, you could tell by looking at it, fell 2, 3, or maybe more years before that. How, if it's an 800-pound log, ain't two guys in the woods going to be able to pick that up and pin that sapling down. So me and you are really on the same page as that.
Yeah.
And
I think the best pin, I think the best pin that I've ever found, Cain and I found this trunk. It was a tree. It was like a 10-inch circumference, 20-foot long or longer. And you could see where it was laying forever and was literally picked up and brought like 35 feet over, and this sapling was underneath it. You could see where it was laying. And then, Cain and I picked it up, and it took both of us to pick this thing up. So that was the best one that I've found so far, because we saw where it was placed prior to, and it was literally picked up and brought over and pinned this sapling. So that was interesting.
That's where you got to be in it for the long haul, because those same ones, if you go back year after year after year and you notice the same tree pinned at this time of year, unpinned, back up straight, repinned, that's where the long haul is on this.
Yeah.
That's where this is all just data points. we don't live and die by structures at all. There's just a lot, like when you refer to, like, when you're looking at that stuff, what are you comparing it against? What do you have? We've got a decade of data to compare it against. And that's, I know I was talking to Spencer around a campfire. We were talking structures and stuff. I'm like, so many people are so entwined in the human element, like Eric had mentioned. Humanize. It's not humanized. How do you know that these structures are to be viewed at night? Has that even crossed your mind? Have you ever looked and seen a structure and seen medicinals under it? Medicinal plants. Maybe that's the sign for, hey, right here, if you have a cold. People look at stuff and they want to say, oh, it points to water. It doesn't. I've lived here where I live now for 3 years. I know where every spring is, every water source there is. And I learned that within 3 months that I lived here. That's human thinking. You've got to get out of that. It's tough because we are looking for something that has hands, opposable thumbs, feet, that do human kind of stuff. But it's data. That's what it is. It's data. If you do it for the long haul, like we're talking, which takes years of data, then you can just look across the board like what I've got, and this matches. And something I tell him, like you said, that I'll stick around. What I will tell Eric, I'll be like, this hits all the parameters. I'm going to stick around. That's the words I use, because we have parameters that we're looking for. Like if it's just this random X out there and there's nothing else, I'll say this doesn't hit the parameters. If it hits all the other data points that we've collected, because we actually have something to use as a database, that's all it is. Like, okay, check this off, check this off, check this off. This is interesting. And then he does his thing. I'll stick around. I'll record. You asked earlier, like, what should people do? Pay attention to everything. You pay attention to the GPS, where you are at. Pay attention to, like, medicinals in the area. Pay attention to every aspect. Even the length of the sticks matters. I'm telling you that. That is a precursor to what some meaning is. These are, in my opinion, a lot of these things have multiple information in them, not just one thing. And that's why even the length of the stick that it's built with is important. And we have the data to back that up. The people that say, well, it's all natural and this and that, I don't have time for you. I don't. We have the data to eat you alive on that. And we shared some of that with you guys over the campfire, what it really looks like if you actually record real data and put it across the board, how it matches up and how from county to county to county to county, that's stuff you can take to a college. Okay, because that's data points. That's all it is. It's like, hey, this we found 10 years ago. We found the exact same one in Georgia. We found at all these same data points. That's real. That's not random. That's where we're getting to. I mean, obviously, every time we find something, we look up, we try to roll out natural. I live out in the woods. I see natural every day of my life. It happens every day. X structures, sticks fall. It's the data points around it that you collect that you have to separate from natural to this is manipulated. And we have a great database here, at least, because there ain't no humans out here doing that stuff. So you can record it and use that as a database, something to go back to. Like, I don't think enough people have even the foundation to start collecting to use it against something. That's years.
Right.
That's years, man. That's miles of hiking, miles and miles of hiking, and taking the time to get the data points. So you have something to compare it to. And it does, I promise you, if you do this and if you're diligent enough, it pops out on the paper. It was like, holy cow. Now you're looking at something that's real that you could take to anybody and say, here, look at this. Tell me that's random stick fall. There will not be a person on this planet that will tell you that. I promise you.
It's very impressive when you get to a point, when you start doing this from the very beginning and you get to a point 2 years, 3 years, and you actually start seeing your database forming. And because you know that you've been to multiple counties in your state, you know that you've been outside of your state, all of these things are adding up. All of these things are data points. And it gets exciting because you can actually start seeing your data. You can start seeing this thing come to life, and it's remarkable, and it keeps you excited, and it keeps you going. It keeps that fuel in you. And Kane is exactly right. I mean, there's enough right now where I know for a fact we could walk in somewhere and sit down and we could have a 4 or 5 hour conversation at a university with all of this spread out on a table, and everything that not just Kane and I, but even throwing in the last 4 years of all of us and what we've done just in this area, and take all of this and sit down and we could have a long conversation with some people on this. But to those that are up and coming, man, it's data. That's how we do this.
Documentation.
The data is where you make your predictions, because you have enough of a base. We can make an accurate prediction. That's where it comes from. It's not woo. It's data. Look, you have enough to make a prediction now. It just takes a lot of hiking and 10 years to do it. But anybody.
You have enough data to create theory. And when you create a theory, then you have enough data to continue that theory on and build that theory, still collecting data, to then turn it into a fact. And that's how you do it. That's how it gets done.
And we've done, for a few little points, we have taken those theories and created facts. Facts.
Yeah.
Legit facts.
Yeah.
Well,
We've all done it. We've all done it.
Yeah.
We
were telling you guys at the campfire, that, what's crazy about that structure is we could tell you where to find the next one in the next county. That's not random tree fall if you can make that prediction from the data. And we've proven that. We have that data.
That's why documentation is so important. And whatever your niche is in this game, I think about Shelly Reed and the documentation she has on audio, where she can go back years and years and years, and you can predict. If we see something that we feel like that we have to throw in the box on a shelf, we can tell her the characteristics of it, and she's got stacks of these hardbound books that she can go back and just start comparing and seeing where we need to go next, what the temperature is. There's so many different, the region, elevation. There's just so much out there. And I think that's why it's important that we need to pull together and compare notes. I know that Kane has done that with Shane Corson and with Amy Boo's project. And that is one of the best projects that is out there. And even when you get non-Bigfoot people out there and you go proving the data, it makes believers out of them.
Oh, most definitely it does. And I'll tell you, I mean, this supporting team that is right here with us five and with Shelly and with Debbie and all of this is people have to understand what this is right here. And it takes every single one of us and everything that we bring on our own to make this happen. You know, Kane and I have been doing this for so long, just he and I, you know, and collecting all of this and doing our work the way that we do it. But when we all get together and we all go out together, it's, you know, Shelly and Debbie, you know, behind the scenes. It's us five out there, you know, in the woods. It's everything is used. Every resource of every person is used to make all of this happen. And that's what we need. That's the groups, you know, those are the groups that need to be created, you know, not the social media groups. It's groups like this that need to be created, you know, to carry this on and to push forward with this. You know, I mean, it just to talk about data and to talk about everything that we all are doing, we've all done, everything that Kane and I have done up. You get us going on our little rants, man, and you can see it come out of us. You can see the excitement come out of us, you know, when we start talking about this. Unfortunately, when you start talking about this to certain people, you get the glazed look because there's not a big wow factor with it. You know, so many people are just looking for that wow. You know, Spencer, man, he's a freaking sponge. You tell this guy anything, man, and he's just, you know, he's 1,000 miles an hour in his head, you know, and what about this and what about this and what about this and hey this and hey that and bada, and it's freaking awesome because he needs to know. He needs to know the why, you know, and when you watch Spencer talk and speak and talking to somebody off on the side and he's drilling them, it's because he needs to know. He has to get the information. So he has to get it so he can use it and go use it with what he has as well. And it's just everything. It's all of it, you know, it's together. It's amazing.
It's connecting the dots. And I think that's one thing that I personally take personal pride in is that when one of us goes to talk about something, everybody is listening like it's their own idea or it's their own thing that they found or it's their own theory. We are not know-it-alls. We are out there to try to learn. We have way more questions than we have answers. And I think that's why we all work well together.
Well, every little thing is every little
Yeah.
nuance of this subject, whether it's audio, that's a lifetime of research. Whether it's tracking, that's a lifetime of research. Whether it's looking at structures, that's a lifetime of research. Whether it's distinguishing tree knocks from calls, that's a lifetime of research. We don't have 5 lifetimes to do it.
Yeah.
So we all have our niches, but when you find the groups that work well together, that's how you solve it. Is because it is a lifetime of research just to solve one little thing in this subject. And that's why the groups, and this is the wild, wild west, and traditionally and historically speaking, anything, even in the scientific world, it's the wild, wild west. Then the scientists take over, and then it's the wild, wild west with them until that theory is proven. So we're products of that. But if we band together and we all have our niche and we can talk without opinions.
Right.
Eric and I vary greatly sometimes with our opinions, and we're not scared to call each other's bullshit. That's what you need. Like, you need someone to say, yeah, prove it. You need that. And that might draw you back a little bit to say, okay, I need to work on this more. But we're very open. We're very open. He throws things at me. I throw things at him. He listens. I listen. But it always goes back to, what's the proof? You got a theory, prove it. But you need a lot of connecting dots for that. I told Amy Boo, I was on part of her Project Zoo book, and we're conversating with Shane Corson about the Olympic project and the nest they found out there. And I told them at that point, I was like, yeah, Eric and I have found the same exact thing that they have. But at that time, like, what do you do with this? It's exactly what I told her. I'm like, who do you call? We don't have a scientist on speed dial to say, hey, come out and look at this. That's where the connectors, she does. You know what I mean? She has those connections where, I made her a promise. I'm like, we will find another nest site in Ohio. When we do, I'm going to call you. You call your people and let's do something with this, because there was so much correlation between the data that we had collected with what Shane had with the Olympic project, that one of the, I think she was an anthropologist, don't quote me on this, that was part of this conversation. These are scientists. By the end of the conversation, she's like, I was a skeptic, but I am amazed that two people from two different sides of the country have so much correlation and the actual real data that scientists can use. She was blown away that there's actually people like us doing that kind of work and presenting it in that kind of fashion that scientists can use. That's what they need. Scientists need data and facts, and you need to be able to repeat it. What's
exciting is I believe we're actually turning the page. I think there are certain people, us and some others, we're actually turning the page of this, and we're stepping it up to a whole nother level of research, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time because you have people like us now that are out there really digging and wanting to figure this out and want real answers of what is taking place out there. And so it is a very exciting time. The others they'll be left behind, whatever, but this is an exciting time for the people that are truly out there and wanting real answers and wanting facts, so we are witnessing a turning of the page when it comes to the Bigfoot realm and people that are researchers versus people that call themselves researchers.
Well, every time you move the ball down the field, you're getting closer to the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
And
we talked about around the campfire is a Bigfoot could be ran over tomorrow and it could be proven. Like, oh, wow, hey, I guess they do exist. From that point on, people have zero data of what that is. What is a Sasquatch? How do they live? What is their environment? What is their qualities? That's really where we deep dive into trying to figure out what is this thing and how does it live. And if it does happen, I firmly believe if Bigfoot gets rid over tomorrow, you're still looking at 10, 20 years before you even have any idea how they live. Because, okay, now it's been proven, but now the scientists have to come in. Who do you think the scientists are going to rely on? They're going to be people like us, because they're out of it, and they're going to look for the people that are research minded, scientific people to help them get kickstarted in this, because they're so far behind in this. It's going to fall back on us, and there'll be a collaborative effort to get it. But even if one's discovered tomorrow, there's going to be very little information. Maybe it's anatomy, and that's it, because people still don't focus on the humanity. That's how I look at it. That might not be the right word, but for me, when we're seeing all this other stuff, you're looking at signs of humanity. I'm personally more than just a great ape. I'm looking at signs of humanity, signs of something a lot like us and what it does to communicate back and forth. To me, that's signs of some kind of humanity, which separates it from a black bear or brown bear, grizzly bear. It puts it a little bit more on the side of us.
That's just not based on opinion, but that's based on experience from boots on the ground for years.
That's where we all end up.
Yeah.
Well, most of us. I mean, I don't knock anybody. I really don't. If you're out there, I love you. It's just my personal truth. It's more than just a great ape. There's signs of humanity. Eric will tell you about his. There's right on his back wall, there's a thing that looks a lot like a human. And he's always said that there's human in this thing. There's a shared quality or a brotherhood or what. And I'm right there. And that's just with my own experience.
Spencer, what do you think?
Yeah. I agree with everything y'all said. That's what I think.
Well, I'll go tell you, I bet you Larry's backstage rubbing his old head right
now. No,
I'm not.
I'm listening. I'm taking notes.
But you know, there he goes.
Yeah.
But that's one great thing about this meet and eat that's coming up is these guys are going to be there. And if you're like Spencer and you're out there searching for these answers, and you need help or you don't understand something, these are great guys to sit around and say, look, this is what I'm seeing and I can't figure it out. What's your thoughts? And experience just means the world to me. That I'll take experience over opinions any day of the week. And too many people put blinders on once they think something, and they'll twist that evidence into their own opinion. And that's why I really appreciate these guys that are up here now is they let the evidence speak for itself. And you cannot ever go wrong if you let the evidence speak for itself.
Yeah, we get passionate, man. But if you look at, obviously, the first thing is, what in your life happened to make someone, Cam did a great job of kind of trying to get inside our psyche on this. Like, what drives these guys? There's a reality. There's a reality that's changed all of our lives that gives us this passion. And this is this much passion that we're showing here. But for all of us, that's a huge part of our life. There's a decade for Eric and I of our life, a literal decade of some serious boots on the ground out in the woods. These little things pop up on Facebook of these memories, and it's like, oh, we trekked 400 miles this year. That's real stuff. That's where we were at that time. We were really doing that, and there was a passion that drive that was from a truth that we discovered out in the woods, and that's why we are passionate to this day. That's what drives us.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that no better myself. It's so important to try to learn from guys like this, from someone that's actually been out there. I remember the first time Larry and I went out with Eric and Kane, and I don't know which one of us said it, but one of us said they're going to separate. And when they separate, you go with Eric and I'll go with Kane. And because of the way that y'all go about, y'all do things a little bit different, but yet it meshes and it's like pieces of the puzzle that come in. Spencer, tell us what it's like for you to follow Eric and Kane in the field.
I mean, for me, the whole thing is a learning experience. That's why I want to get out in the woods with them so much. Is, I mean, to me, there's not but a handful of people that actually do what they do, and I can appreciate the practicality, the way that they go about it, and the amount of experience they have doing it. But for me to follow them is just like, they're looking at stuff and they spot stuff that never even crosses my mind, or the way that they think about certain things. And I'm like, oh, could it mean this and this? And, Eric will be the first one to tell you, just like he told me at camp this past weekend, he's like, you're completely freaking wrong on that. And I mean, it's nice to be around people that actually have enough real world experience in this, that they're not just stating opinion, they're telling you based off of their experience and years of that experience and data and everything. So for me, the whole thing is a learning thing. That's what I'm there for. It's hard to keep up with them sometimes, that's for sure.
Well, we are just about out of time. We don't want to step on WTF's podcast tonight. So I think a good way to end this is talk about each of our own favorite part of this outing. And I'll just start with myself. My favorite thing was getting back into the woods with Eric and Kane and Spencer. It's probably been a year and a half since I've been out with Eric and Kane, and it's good friends and good times. So that was the part of my favorite part of this outing. Spencer, what was your favorite part?
It definitely won the scotch. It was just hanging out around the campfire and hearing them two discuss so much stuff. That was my favorite part.
Kane, what about you?
It was you guys. You know, Eric's always been my ride and die in this, but you, Larry, Spencer, you guys are like brothers, man. I was hiking with Larry a lot during this little expedition, and I told him, I don't care if we have anything happen. This is my expectations are zero when we go out to these places that are remote. My real research is here that I have dedicated a lot of time to. So this is about getting with you guys. And 100% hanging out with you guys. And you guys always do a great job of talking us up, but you guys add a lot for us. I mean, man, if anyone wants to know about blades, bushcraft, Japanese language and customs, I mean, he shake his head, but I mean, I love that, man. Spencer can talk for hours about that stuff, but there's also quality to that, what he brings to the table. This is a real bushcraft guy. Like, I want to share a fire with a guy like him. And Mark and Larry, I want to share a fire with guys like you because you guys are the same fold as we are. That's all it is. No one's better than anybody. We all have our niches. You know, Mark, you're a tremendous guy when it comes to the techno stuff, audio especially. I mean, that is your thing. And Larry has this hunter's perspective and a healthy source of skepticism. That's invaluable. But beyond that, we're just friends, man. Getting together, we got to do it, 2 times a year at least, because you guys are like family. And that's what I enjoy about this trip.
Well said. What about you, Eric?
I told you guys, and I'll say it now again, that, when Cam brought out the documentary, my wife sat there and watched the whole thing with me. And at the very end of it, she looked at me and she said, "You miss those guys, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I started a thing a couple days ago. It's in the mornings as I'm driving to work. It's called Coffee Squatch Talk. And I do it live on Facebook, on my Facebook page. And I just pick a topic and I talk as I'm driving to work. And I said on the first one that it was getting out with Mark and Larry and Spencer and Kane and just spending a weekend with those guys. That's what I wanted, and that's what I got. That's what I needed. And I look forward to many, 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 many more.
Well said. What about you, Larry?
I got to say, that's exactly what all of y'all said. We've not been out in a year and a half or more since COVID and other things, but it was great to get out in the woods with all y'all. And I honestly didn't know if I could physically make it, but I did. I did fine. So I've been having problem with my foot for the last 6 months. I didn't have any problem with that. So I was afraid I was going to get in but not get out. But we had so much fun. I could have sat there for another month at that campfire. I guarantee it. Poor Kane. I don't know what secrets.
Dark secrets.
It's that Band-Aid stuff, man.
Yes.
You got to give that up.
Yeah. You want me to get loose lips? There you go.
But next week, folks, come out to the Meet and Eat. We're going to have a big campfire. We're going to have all these guys sitting around it. Y'all can pick their brains, find out stuff. You can share your encounters with them and just have a good time because that's what we're going to have is fun. So I hope to see everybody there next week. I hope Cheryl makes it. What happened to Cheryl? Nobody knows.
He's still
Okay.
traipsing around in the woods trying to find us.
Well, next week we'll be able to say there's Cheryl. There's Cheryl. All right, guys, we're going to get off here, and we will see y'all next week.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.
Maybe. Hopefully.